On the 29th of November 1948, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution calling for the establishment of a Jewish state in Israel. Since its establishment, Israel has been on the brink of war simply for existing, and its people have had to live according to that truth for generations. Being ready to hear a siren and go into a shelter room is a normality unique to the land of Israel. The Six-Day War disrupted the peace inside Israeli borders. For many, that was the first experience they had with a siren.
הייתה אזעקה בצהרי היום, 2 אחרי הצהריים מדויק. אני ששמעתי את האזעקה, התייצבתי בנקודה שהייתי אמור. הייתי אחראי על אזור, גיוס. התחלתי לגייס את כל המילואים של הגדוד, החטיבה.
Even 55 years after the war, citizens living in Israel still deal with sirens throughout their everyday life. And the notion of another war such as Operation Protective Edge in 2014 and Operation Guardian of the Walls of 2021.
May 2021, that was actually the first time I properly heard the sirens. I've heard them here and there, like a random time a siren's gone off, but never for 10 full days.
I felt really scared at the beginning, especially the first time that I heard the sirens. I was not ready for it. We knew that it could happen. We knew that it was gonna happen, but I was not ready to hear it.
The siren went on. I think I was 7 or 8 months pregnant, and it was very hard for me to go down and up the stairs. So I refused to go anymore. I refused to go to the shelter. I was like, no, it's okay. The chances are too small of anything happening. I just prefer to either go to the 2nd floor and just wait there in the hallway, or just stay in the apartment. I refused to go down 3 floors and up 3 floors again every time there was a siren.
It was pretty scary. It was my first time hearing it, and I was with my boyfriend at the time at his apartment in Herzliya after IDC. I went there and I wanted to drive home, and then I heard the sirens. I stayed over it by his, and I didn't go home for 10 days because we drove straight away the next day to his family's home in Caesarea because we didn't feel safe or comfortable being in his particular apartment. The mamad wasn't that good and we just didn't feel safe there.
It was really scary. It was terrifying to say the least, and I don't think I realized how much it affected me until afterwards.
The feelings after the wars are still common and affect civilians. Although not all sirens sound the same, the similar sound still gets a reaction from people living in the war-prone country. This can manifest in some in the form of post-traumatic stress disorder.
So post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD, is an anxiety problem that starts due to a traumatic event. So people with PTSD will usually relive this trauma, whether it be something that triggers them in their daily life. It can be through flashbacks, it can be through nightmares. So usually what they'll do is they'll try to avoid at any cost any situation that will trigger them or take them back to this situation.
The conflicts in 2014 and 2021 impacted the younger generation of new immigrants who were experiencing sirens for the first time then.
So interestingly enough, there was a study in 2008 by Gelkov that studied what PTSD, which areas of society it was affecting within Israel. And they did a part where they looked directly into Olim Chadashim, which was very interesting because they found them to be more at risk to suffer from PTSD. And this is, of course, the study was only related to terrorist events. So it wasn't related to the military per se. But Olim Chadashim did prove to be more at risk. Again, maybe because they have not had this upbringing, it's not something maybe they were used to encountering. They hadn't heard stories, other things that maybe growing up within the Israeli society, it becomes a little bit more common.
My anxiety was on high alert because even being in the army doesn't prepare you for hearing sirens. I arrested people and I did you know, drug raids. I didn't deal with sirens like that. I was used to sirens from the cop car, but not like red alert sirens.
There were a few weeks, even after things kind of settled down and maybe the sirens weren't going off at all, and there was a complete ceasefire and most people had moved on. It still affected me while during the night, not being able to sleep, and sometimes even during the day.
I would have to have like a pill to just keep like my anxiety medication on me and just keep myself calm, you know, because I couldn't fall asleep. And then if I fall asleep, I'm someone who is very, in general, like vivid dreams. So I was vividly dreaming what was going on as well.
All the acceleration of like motorcycles made me directly like freaked out. Because it's like the same sound as the sirens, so directly for me it was really complicated. Even now I can have this feeling of being stressed or being like afraid about it.
A total of 28,248 men, women, and children have been killed in terrorist attacks and in the defense of the land of Israel since 1860. Even so, Israel still remains a land of joy and significance for the Jewish people and a place of freedom and a promised place worth fighting for and staying for. 2,360 moved here last year to serve, study, and thrive. It has always been an uphill battle for Israel, but the culture and people and the resilience and hope they provide to the land will always prevail.
I think the thing that makes me love this country so much again is the history, the story of the Jewish people. 3,000 years ago, this is where the tribe was. We were sent into the diaspora due to, you know, hatred from other tribes. Miraculously, we find ourselves here again in 2022 in a developed, thriving economy. And there's no reasoning to make sense. How did we go from the Holocaust to where we are today in 75 years or whatever it's been? The only word I can think of is miracles. I think there's been a consistent occurrence of miracles in this land, and that's why I love being here.
יש לי אישה, זאת האמא שלך, ניסה אולי נגיע עד מחר. אם לא נעט, לא נביט, לא נשים לב לפרטים, לא נגיע לארץ חדשה. לא נגיע לארץ חדשה.